It's supposed to feel.
Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to Starbucs on Pittsburgh Baseball Now. I'm your host, Anthony DiNardo. With me, we got Jim Rosati. Jim, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing wonderful. I woke up on time this morning. So did you. We're bright and early, sharp at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Yeah. They don't need to know that we cheated, and we're doing this, and it's 10:50 p.m. on a Sunday night.
Yeah, exactly.
So if this was 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, today, where would you be right now?
Somewhere in Indiana, driving through Indiana.
So basically, we're doing this. We're pre-recording this because Jim wouldn't be able to be here on Monday morning, which is okay. It's perfectly fine. So we're recording Sunday night. That way we can have this out to you guys live this morning as you're watching this or listening on the podcast. But, it's not as if, like, the next few hours really made a difference if we did it now or tomorrow anyways. So,
yeah, nothing's going to happen between now and 7 a.m. Nothing really can happen. So,
yeah, like you said, like, nothing really can. And if it was the offseason, say it was December, 7th. Yeah. I'm also pretty confident nothing would happen. So, there's that.
Most likely.
Right. But anyways, I guess we should get into the show. For the most part, talking about nothing can really happen or whatever. The Pirates aren't in the postseason, so there's nothing really talking in regards to that. We could give a little AFL updates. As we just talked before the show, Leadom just started, but there really hasn't been a whole lot of updates to really talk about since like we've last talked. Nick Gonzalez is still tearing it up.
Yeah, not a whole lot. I said Dominican Winter League started on Saturday, was opening day. So big names to watch there. Andy Rodriguez is playing. Leo Perguero is playing. Dario Lopez got a start on Saturday. So a few Pirates prospects in the mix. O'Neal Cruz is going to be joining one of those teams here within the next week or two as well. So some interesting stuff to look forward to. And those broadcasts, if you haven't watched them, they're super fun. The commercials in the Dominican Republic are excellent. And they're all on MLB.tv. It's free.
There you go. Yeah. Also, just to add in, just talking about that. And I tuned in, and it's not like a great broadcast. There is no broadcast. The sound is very, very low. You can barely hear anything. But the Arizona Fall League, the AFL, is actually now being streamed as well on MLB.com.
Yeah, so Arizona Fall League now being streamed. Like I said, I don't really think it's a broadcast.
It's not
necessarily. It's just like
it's stream. As close to like what we were seeing in like maybe not center field. It's actually in the behind home plate, but just like a camera sitting there just showing the field.
Yeah,
you hear the sounds and bits of
not ideal. But
it's not.
It's something, I guess.
It's footage, though, at least.
Yeah. I don't know if I want to sit through a Arizona Fall League game looking at a camera position 200 feet behind home plate, though.
I'll be honest. I didn't. Yeah. I saw. Shout out to John Drecker. He's the one that let me know about it when he tweeted out there. I was like, oh, this is fantastic. And then I tuned in. And then about 5 minutes later, I tuned right out. I was like, I can't do all this. I can't.
There are better uses of my time.
Yeah.
If you want to produce like an actual broadcast, then sure, I'll put it on. But yeah, I'm not going to do that.
That's what I was saying. I would much rather just see like the at-bat.
Yeah.
That's quite fine with me. Then whatever footage that was, trying to figure out who even is at the plate, what's going on.
Exactly.
So anyways, but I guess it's in a step towards the right direction. I mean, at least there is footage. You can see it. So there's something.
True.
But the real reason we're going to have the show is Ben Cherington made a presence. He had a press conference. He talked. People were there. Words exited his mouth. I'm not sure if he gained any information though. So I guess we should just start. Mackey tweeted out it was what 6,800 and some words were spoken. 50 some questions asked.
Yeah.
And I feel like not one bit of information was provided.
Yeah, 6,861 words throughout the press conference. And yeah, I mean, going into it, you just know that when Ben Cherington is going to speak in front of a room of reporters, he's not actually going to say anything of substance. Like the dude doesn't talk about what he's planning on doing. But yeah, I mean, I guess we've got some things to talk about there. He talked for an hour, but at the same time didn't really say anything. So similar to like an NS9 podcast, I guess you could say.
Very much so. But we've learned from the best. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I mean, it started with Neil, and now we got Ben, and it just progresses each
They really
year.
are just the exact same person.
But like, here's something I want to say. And trust me, like when it comes to Ben Cherington, there's a whole nother level to this. And I understand that. But there's just something like when it comes to GMs for the most part. And again, I understand that there are specific few that like will go out there and just tell you the plan and be very transparent with things. But for the most part, Jim, I just feel like these are mostly worthless. Most GMs aren't going to tell you anything. I mean, this is why it's called GM talk. You know, I mean, it's dubbed that for a reason. It's not just because it's not that came from the Pirates. It's not Pirates GM talk. It's GM talk. Most aren't really going to give you anything. But again, Ben Cherington takes that whole nother level to just, again, 6,800 some words. And you got nothing from it. So that's like my whole thing. Knowing this was going to happen, it didn't really matter what was said, which was nothing. Because to me, I just need to see it. I don't care what you're saying. We've gotten 3 years of this. I feel like the one time Ben Cherington said anything, it was on MLB Network, and he said the Pirates are a lot closer to winning than you think. And boy, did that backfire, because they were not closer at all than anyone thought. No. I mean, they lost one less game this year than last year. They did absolutely nothing this offseason. And yeah, so maybe he learned from that and said, you know, I'm not going to give it any glimpse.
Yeah, I mean, the team clearly this season did not perform very well. 62 and 100 year after being 63 and 99. So wait, no, 60
no, 101.
61 and 101. Yeah. So not necessarily trending in any sort of direction. They were bad yet again. They clinched, you know, one of the bottom 3 spots, which means they get the highest percentage for first overall pick in the draft lottery. I mean, they were bad. They were a bad team again for the 3rd straight year. Not really much else you can really say about it. He said a lot of words about he thinks that they're closer than what, you know, it may look like. I did see some of that. You know, they're close to getting, I think close to getting better, I think was the words he used. So I would certainly hope that they are close to getting better, you know, considering we've had 3 straight years of just being abysmal.
Right. I'm with you, man. So maybe we should get into some of the things. Now, it's not like we're privy to all 6,800 some words, but you saw a lot of the comments, a lot of the paraphrasing and actual quotes on Twitter from things that were said. So I guess to sum up what we know, right, we can talk about, maybe let's talk about the first thing. And this also can kind of be, we can use it with the source from Mackey pretty much put out there about a week ago. I feel like that, you know, from a source that the Pirates are looking to spend about $20 to $30 million in free agency this year to add to the payroll. And that's kind of what Ben Cherington said. Like, they are going to look to acquire free agents. One of them, first base, we'll talk about, but they are looking to acquire free agents. Getting linked that to the Mackey source, about $20 to $30 million. On top of that, though, Ben Cherington does say that payroll doesn't mean anything to them. Like, don't look at payroll. It's not about payroll. So it kind of tells you, to sum up a lot of his quotes right now, too. Again, GM talk and Ben Cherington, everything tells you of, we would like to do this, but it gives them an out if it doesn't happen. and that's really what I got from all of this. Everything almost came with a clause. But yes, so we look to spend money, but also realize payroll doesn't matter. So if we don't spend money, it's okay. But yes, so again, they are looking to spend about that. So I guess what I'm going to start with on that sense is for the people getting excited, because I think you and I have talked about this, the way this team is constructed and what's coming up into the pipeline next year, like ND's coming, right? Quinn Priester's coming, Burrows is coming, maybe Henry Davis and others. So with that said, with what's coming, what's constructed, this team probably would be pretty competent if they spend about $30 million. Fair? I didn't say good. Again, competent is the key word.
So yeah, like, define competent.
Able to play baseball. You saw first base, they were not able to play baseball. You saw many hitters, they were not able to play baseball. You saw many relievers not able to play baseball. Just guys that can step on first base, that can.
So $30 million maybe puts them in a place where they're not losing 100 games. But I don't think $30 million necessarily puts them in a place where they're playoff contenders.
Again, I'm not saying contending. I'm saying competent.
Okay.
Most people are a major league caliber player. There's competency. You're seeing a game of baseball being played, not a blooper reel at the end of the year, provided by Stilo to show you the 2023 Pirates roundup. You know what I mean?
I can somewhat agree with that. Yeah.
Okay. So here's what I want to say to that. For the people also thinking we're going to add $20 to $30 million to this team, and how that means $20 to $30 million being added to the payroll. Forget that. Jim, they also did, as abysmal as this team was, they also did spend money in free agency last year. They have stuff coming off the books. They were paying Gregory Polanco last year to not play baseball. When you look and say they had about $14 million in contracts that are coming off the books, then you add Gregory Polanco's $3 million. That's $17 million coming off the books, but they're not doing anything right now. So also think, like, payroll's not going up $30 million. Don't get this idea that payroll's going to be like close to $80 million. To say that you can spend $20 to $30 million this offseason is basically saying that you're going to spend about the same right now in payroll as you did last year. You're going to add a little bit of arbitration, there'll be some increases there. But like, that's what I'm going to say. This payroll isn't jumping up that much in doing that also.
Yeah. So Ethan Houlihan, obviously the payroll guru here, he put out the starting point, like where we're at right now for 2023 payroll is $44,512,000, and some change. So we're like $44.5 million is where we're sitting right now for 2023 payroll. So, you add 30 to that, you're right around $75 million in that area, which is, higher than where they started this past year. I believe. I'll have to look that up, but I think that sounds about right. I still don't know if that puts them in a place where like they need to be, but it's something. But at the end of the day, like, I got to see it. I don't know the last time this team spent $30 million in free agency.
So according to Ethan as well,
Yeah.
from his spreadsheet, they're sitting at 61 million, 60.925.
Okay.
So again, the 20 to 30 side. If you're at 20, they're basically at a wash.
Mhm.
Spend 30, you're about 10 million more.
Yeah.
14, I guess. But again, that's what I'm alluding to here.
Yeah.
I feel like people are getting this vision ahead because they're seeing on Twitter and whatever, like, okay, payroll is going to bump 20 to 30 million dollars now. And that's just false. Yeah, they can spend 20, 30, but in doing so with what's coming off the books and everything as well, they're still not spending all that much more. So it's not as if like they're really trying to go out there and spend money. They're really just spending about the same as they have before. They're just reallocating it to new freedoms.
Yeah. And then, you have to hope that there is an O'Neal Cruz extension this offseason. And I mean, we'll get to this offseason later on, but hopefully there's increases to payroll there. Maybe Brian Reynolds extension would be fun. Mitch Keller, maybe, so there's a few guys out there that, I wouldn't mind seeing them lock up. It's just a matter of if it's going to happen or not. The Brian Hayes extension happened pretty late, in the year. I think it was like the first week of the season? Essentially,
it was because it was
So-
before a game, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Like the announcement and everything.
yeah. So there was that. Yeah. Hopefully they do that with O'Neal Cruz. That's really honestly like number one priority this offseason is lock up O'Neal Cruz for 10 plus years. That's my number one priority.
I'll put it this way. Wouldn't hate that, but I don't see 10 years. And I'll tell you what, if they just get if they just get an extension done, let's just start there. I'll rejoice just seeing those words. But
12 years. Give him a Wander deal.
12 years. Oh boy. Nutting is sweating right now. One thing I want to say to that though, is I do believe he did touch on that also. They were looking to extend, right? Give money to their own players. But I do believe he said as well in this that's likely going to be coming more towards like the end of spring training when stuff like that happens. So, I mean, let's be honest too. That does make sense. I mean, it's not as if like that's just the Pirate way. I mean, that happens around baseball as well. It is what it is. But like he did focus on that most times that is something that comes about towards the end of spring training, which just as you brought up with Brian Hayes, that's pretty much like what transpired there.
Yeah. But no, you add that in. You add in 30 million. You're hoping to add a starting pitcher, right, to the mix. You're hoping to add a first baseman to the mix. And, I would like to see a corner outfielder as well. So that's kind of what I'm looking. And so I just don't know the caliber of guys you can get, if you're looking at just spending 30 million, because you want to maybe add a couple bullpen pieces too, throughout that process as well. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I really, really, really hope they add like a competent first baseman to go along with a starting pitcher.
Take it back. They don't have to do anything. But I just feel as if, especially after the season, like that has to be a focal point. That might be the biggest focal point I feel they need to hit on. Like you just have to have a competent first baseman. I put out there's rumors, which of course makes a lot of sense. That's how the Rays operate. But like a G-Man Choi possibly being, DFA'd by the Rays at this point in time, his last year, or it could be a trade, some sort, and he's had like back-to-back years where he hasn't been as productive as the year before, however, still productive. And like what I put out there was, I wouldn't hate that. I would not hate a G-Man Choi for the Pirates. I just feel like that might be like the start in the bar. That's like the when A and B and maybe even C doesn't come through, you might settle on a G-Man Choi. Like that's what I feel like the Pirates need to do. They need to strive for better than that. However, if they got a G-Man Choi this year, I wouldn't hate that because that's that real veteran. He plays a solid first baseman defensively. The bat at this point in time, maybe not as great as you'd want, but it's still good enough. And he walks a lot. Power's not really there. But again, this was a team that had a -3 WAR.
Yeah.
Getting a G-Man Choi at maybe around 1 WAR next season, which again isn't like great, but that's 4 wins you're adding to this team, and you're probably paying nothing for a G-Man Choi. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. Like, I wouldn't hate that. It checks some boxes. It's a true veteran, got some leadership in the clubhouse. He's a competent player, but I think they should be aiming higher. Like, that should be the bar.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Choi, and I mean, just profile wise, pretty decent hitter, right? Defensively, he's not great. Value wise, not great. He is a platoon guy. I don't know. I kind of want like an everyday first baseman that you can rely on to at least be like average. Like, give me a 2-win first baseman. I said, what was our WAR for the year? First base position?
-3.
So you get a 2-win first baseman, and you just improve the team by 5 games.
Right.
Like, just that one thing. And you're not even adding somebody that good. You're just you're just putting in an average baseball player into that position, and you just made the team 5 games better.
Yeah. And I get that. And again, that's what I'm going to say. Like, that's the goal. But I feel like a G-Man Choi should be the fallback. Like, that's the last resort, not what they've done this year, or just try to piece it together with whatever. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm getting at. Like, that should be the last resort. Like, that, again, to me, like, that's the bar. You strive for higher, and that's where the bottom end is. That's where we have to settle. That's what I feel like the Pirates need to do. They really need to look into first base and, you know, like you said, upgrade that, but it's not going to cost a whole lot. It doesn't cost an arm or leg for a 2-WAR first baseman. Again, like, keep doing CJ Cron in Colorado.
Well, like, and I mean, Choi,
$7
for
million.
example, like, Choi's probably a guy you pay $5 million to.
Right.
That's not a lot of money.
Now you got 25 million more to go.
Yeah. So, no, I think that's something that needs to be done. You know, Josh Bell is a name that, you know, you hear a lot. I don't know if Josh Bell is someone who, one, would want to come back to Pittsburgh, and two, if the Pirates can afford them. You know, he's coming off back-to-back 2 WAR seasons. So, you know, kind of, he's gotten consistent. He's been consistently average, you know, in his time in Washington. So we'll see how that goes. I mean, if he performs really well in the postseason, that could also bump his stock up a little bit. Kind of depending how it goes from here on out. But that's another target, like someone like that, who I would love to see come back. And not necessarily just because, you know, we've had them before, but like someone who can go in and be an average major league player who can play that position most of the time. You know, that's what I'd like to see.
I'm with you. I've even said like a Wilmer Flores I wouldn't hate, coming off the Giants. Again, 1.5 WAR this year and 139 games, 112 weighted runs created plus. Like, it wasn't terrible. That's something that the Pirates should not say they can't afford. You know, like we couldn't hit on a Wilmer Flores. Like, that's in their ballpark. Like, that's something they can absolutely afford as a Wilmer Flores. And he's a capable player. But right, definitely some options. And again, first base should certainly be a point of emphasis. And again, like where we're coming from, like the middle infield is flooded with players that you want to see upcoming. You want to see how they do, right? Like we talked about with Cruz, Castro, and Bay and such. And you have Newman in the mix or whatnot. So you're probably getting these veterans from the corners that you talk. So like first base has to be some type of true veteran out there that can help the ball club, help the team production wise and such. So that was a point of emphasis that, you know, Cherington did say that is what they're going to look into doing, which, I mean, they should. They didn't tell me too much. Like, they are going to look into upgrading first base. Well, you were the worst first base in baseball, so you probably should do that.
And it also doesn't take much to upgrade the position. Like no. What we were saying, like you can upgrade that position and make the team substantially better just by adding an average guy.
You could do it by adding a below average guy. And all I'm saying is that's how pathetic it was.
Yeah, right. You could do it by adding a bad guy.
Yes. So that was one thing they talked about. Another thing they talked about too, Ben Cherington talked about, was how 2023 players need to come in and compete. Nobody's jobs is safe. Everyone needs to come in with a mentality and mindset that they need to be here and compete. So, Jim, I ask you, what year should players not come in ready to compete?
Yeah, it's a strange thing that's said, because you should always be ready to compete to make the team and be there. You're obviously gonna have some guys who are slotted into positions. Like, let's be real. Brian Hayes is the team starting third baseman. Brian Reynolds is going to be starting in center or left, regardless, whatever. But he's going to be in one of those. And O'Neal Cruz is going to be the starting shortstop. Like, those are known things. Those aren't changing. So there are a few people who are safe, but yeah, you just lost 100 games. No one should be going into this offseason feeling cushy about their jobs.
Yes. So I'm with you there. And again, like, that should be the mentality. That's kind of like my issue with this clubhouse, with this organization. No one has earned anything here. Like, zero. Brian Reynolds and Brian Hayes have. And like, that's really it. And now you can say Mitch Keller has. So it was like when they were talking about opening day starters in like early March, I'm like, well, why?
Yeah.
Who's earned anything,
Right.
But regardless, like, this is absolutely an organization that no one has earned anything. Everyone should be competing. That should be the mindset anyways. So if he wants to reiterate it, fine. That's fine and dandy, whatever. But yeah, players need to come in ready to compete. To me, it just sounds as if it's like, this worst can come twofold. It's like you want like a Castro is a perfect example of this. I keep saying Castro should have the inside job. You should give him every opportunity to win second base, right? But like, he hasn't done enough to earn it. Like, it's not like he's given the right and says, hey, Castro, second base is yours. He needs to come in the spring next year and earn that right back and such. But here's my thing. Cool. So once again, you're saying players need to earn it. So what if Eddie Rodriguez comes into spring training next year? I don't know, or earns the job. So you come out your mouth today saying players need to earn their job, right? Earn it, earn it, earn it. So what happens to those guys that do earn it? What do you tell them?
There's a few things internally that they need to work on, DiNardo.
So when he's had, like, I don't know, over 1,000 OPS basically everywhere he goes and all the minors this year, he's in lead on right now and just tearing it up. And I don't know, he comes to spring training next year and just tears it up some more. We're gonna play that game again, right?
Oh yeah,
that's what I thought. So now, right? Because I don't know, I'm Eddie Rodriguez, and you're my GM. I'm interested in this stuff too, and I hear, okay, guys got to come in ready to compete next year, and I do that, and then I'm told, forget what I said, because I've been saying this year after year, and guys do that, and I reward them at the end of the year, and then I tell them they got to go back to the AAA next year. I just hate this stuff, because it's just like this whole MO. It's what Ben Cherington brought in about, this whole player-centric environment, and our guys are gonna, they're gonna earn their way there. They're gonna project their playing career on based on what they're doing and such. And then he says things like this. And again, I want to hold him to this stuff. You talked about players need to earn it. So what about those guys on the outside looking in? When they do earn it, what are you going to tell them? The guy who didn't earn it is now going to play. When you bring in that Josh Vanmeter next year, he's going to play because he earned it.
Yeah, that's what happened this year. Josh Vanmeter earned it by playing 0 spring training games.
That's what I'm getting at. Like, when you look at what happened this year, what guys earned half of the stuff they did this year? Like, nobody, which we'll get into the Shelton comments here in a little bit too. But yeah, okay, great. So you want to tell me this whole offseason now heading next year about earning it? That's where I'm going with this.
No, I hear you. It's frustrating, and it's something that it's just another one of the things, like, I'll believe it when it happens, right? Up to this point, they haven't shown me as a fan that they're willing to just simply put the best players on the field for the sake of putting the best players on the field. There's always something else going on that that's requiring them to not do that, right? Requiring is in quotes, but that's where I'm at. And so next year, like, you're not going to convince me. Let's say they re-sign Roberto Perez, right? Which was a topic of discussion that they want to look, obviously, to see what all's available, but the door would be open for a possible extension there. Let's say they bring back Roberto Perez, and it's him, it's Jason DeLay, it's Heineman, on this roster. Like, you're not going to convince me that Andy Rodriguez doesn't deserve to play above those guys. You're just simply not going to convince me of that. So if they don't allow that to happen, like, we're just back to where we were this year with Cruz and Contreras. It's just an endless game of manipulating service time and not putting the best team on the field. Like, that's just actively not trying to win. When you want to win, you put your best players on the field, and they have yet to show that they're willing to do that up to this point.
Correct. Even about the Roberto Perez thing, and again, it seemed as if it was always like, but here's our out if it doesn't happen. Yeah, the door's always open. We would definitely like to look into that. And of course, I'm paraphrasing here, but we want to wait till we see the medicals and had that discussion with him. And sure, you're giving yourself that out. So if you don't look into signing him or whatever, it's like, well, we didn't really want to because of X, Y, Z or whatever. I mean, I don't know. I think Roberto Perez signing makes all the sense in the world for me. And again, I'll say, like I said before, this year makes way more sense of having him than last year, because this year you have Andy Rodriguez, and again, maybe a Henry Davis. Like, Henry's a possibility this year. His play is going to determine that, I feel. Mm-hmm. But Andy is here. Like, he is ready from day one. We'll find out when that happens. But regardless, when he comes in here, that's when Roberto Perez is going to have to take a step back. And I think it's plain as day right now, Roberto Perez is a part-time player, but also probably a very good mentor, which an Andy Rodriguez could use. So that's why, to me, like, a signing of Roberto Perez is very, very helpful for this ball club. Makes a lot of sense because he doesn't need to give you everyday stuff, and he'll be a great mentor for Andy Rodriguez and maybe Henry Davis as well.
Yeah. No, I would be in favor of bringing Perez back. I think he would make a good part-time catcher to kind of fill in and be a backup to Andy and Henry Davis. So I would be in support of it. He's going to provide better value than DeLay and Heineman for sure. But, like, at the end of the day, Andy Rodriguez, he needs to be your opening day catcher. And until the Pirates show that they are willing to do something like that, it's hard for me to take them seriously, like, in terms of them wanting to win baseball games.
So, a couple of things I want to talk about here. You talk about, Jason DeLay and Heineman. Jason DeLay for the Pirates, 57 games, 167 plate appearances, had a 53 weighted runs created plus, so very, very bad offensively. A .2 WAR. We talked. I mean, defense was his calling card. I did say. I mean, it was noticeable. He came up. He was always talked about, like, in these moments. I'm not saying he was clutch. I mean, some of that was a lot in jest, right? That I said he's not a good hitter. But he always, like, his name was out there. But again, he's not that good hitter. His calling card was defense, and at the end, like, his defense actually really fell off. Like, it was not as strong as you really hoped for. So at the end of the day, in 57 games, a .2 WAR. I mean, take that over a whole year. He's basically a .5 WAR player if he does this all year long, right?
Right.
That's not good.
No.
Here's the thing too. When you look at him in 2021 in AAA, actually I'm gonna throw out the doors. Only 30 plate appearances. When you look at him in, like, he just really doesn't play baseball.
Well, I mean, he's been a backup catcher his entire career.
I'm trying to find, like, this biggest sample size. So look at 2019
Yeah.
in AA, 252 plate appearances, 98 weighted runs created plus. The year before in 18 in high A, 251 plate appearances, 86 weighted runs created plus. When you look at Endy Rodriguez this year in those leagues at age 22, in high A, 151. In double A, 198. I'm sorry, 199. And then in triple A, he had a 208. Of course, limited 28 plate appearances. But the dude balled out.
Mm-hmm.
I think that says he's better than Jason DeLay. Even if he struggles, he's better than Jason DeLay.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to present this question to you also, because we know about the new league rules, which are coming into play right now with Rookie of the Year and being awarded a full year service time, and what you can get as a baseball organization if your player is in the tops of Rookie of the Year voting. Are you more comfortable saying Endy Rodriguez could win Rookie of the Year next year than you would be with O'Neal Cruz winning Rookie of the Year a year ago? Like, if I was to ask you this question a year ago and then ask you it today about Endy, like, who do you think has a better chances of winning Rookie of the Year? O'Neal Cruz, who played a full year this year, or Endy Rodriguez next year playing a full year?
It's a good question.
It's loaded and it's hard.
Yeah, I would say probably about even. Like I would put both of them near. Like both of them would be favorites. Front runners for the award. You're looking at two prospects who are, Endy Rodriguez is number 33 now overall in Fangraphs. I think O'Neal Cruz going into last year was like number 8 ish.
Was it that high? I felt like around 15-ish.
Pretty
I
high.
could be wrong.
So maybe Cruz a little bit more likely just from like a Vegas odds standpoint, but no, a very, very similar feel between the two of them where, yeah, you give them enough at bats, you give them enough playing time, they've got a pretty good shot.
Fair. And again, I have no favors. I kind of feel as if Cruz, I mean, of course he has the highest ceiling of them all, but we could see a Cruz struggling, which he did.
Yeah.
And then figure it out, pick it up. Well, I don't know, man. Like,
you do have I'm looking at the
Endy
list
just
right
really
here.
has me buying in him right now that
Oh,
I
yeah.
feel like he's probably the safest right now his rookie season to be productive. Like, I almost feel like Endy Rodriguez could be a 2.5 WAR player next year. Like, I'm dead set that, like,
Absolutely.
that is to me, that can't happen.
Right.
Where Cruz could be a 1 WAR player his rookie season, or could be a 5 WAR player his rookie season. Or like Endy, I just feel like he's probably a 2.5 WAR player next year.
Yeah. So I guess that goes back to the original question then. 2.5 WAR player probably isn't winning Rookie of the Year.
It's not. And I guess what I'm getting at is I could see him being better than that.
Yeah.
I just feel like it's very safe to say that, where like nothing was safe with Cruz. Like, I just feel like his variable was just such a range, but he has the potential to be like that 5 WAR player. It's like, well, he's Rookie of the Year. So then I guess what I'm going to ask you now is, if you're Ben Cherington, we know he didn't do it with O'Neal Cruz. Do you think oh man, feeling for you this question. Do you think he maybe feels some certain way with Endy and says, let's try it with him, where he didn't with O'Neal Cruz?
No, I just don't. It's so far he hasn't shown that to be his MO. I will be very pleasantly surprised if Endy Rodriguez is on the opening day roster next year, and I'll be extremely happy if he is. But I just, until Ben Cherington shows us that he's willing to do that with a top prospect, I'm not going to think there's much of a shot.
And that's what sucks. Yeah. That's what sucks, because I'm with you. And again, you jokingly said it, but with real reason to, because you were serious about it, that there's probably reasons that Endy wasn't caught up at the end of this year for that Congratulations. You had an amazing season. Here's your reward, as O'Neal and Ronesy did last year. Because then Ben Cherington played the game. He found out that there's a lot of backlash. And regardless of his, from peers and the public backlash or whatever, just it happened. Like, he didn't do it. And to me, what is the biggest problem with all this is just like, you have no balls. Like, that's the thing. Like, you just had no balls. You tightened up, you went in your little corner and just said, we're going to play the game of just being safe and get that extra year. When if you had some balls, you could have said, you know what, let's do this. Let's go for it. O'Neal, Rowansy. And again, I take this little step back because I understand Rowansy probably wouldn't regardless because he's going to have that inning limits. It's probably going to be hard to be a Spencer Strider when you're pitching like 100 innings this year. But like with O'Neal, just say, go get this for me. Go get it for you. You really want to reward me? Here you are, opening day. Go chase that Rookie of the Year and give me a draft pick because I could use it. And you could use the bonus for getting a Rookie of the Year because I don't have to pay you for it either. That's good. That's coming out of this MLB stipend now.
Yeah.
But like, you could have showed balls and done that. And again, like if he didn't and he was not being productive, then okay, go the Detroit Tigers route and demote Torkelson to get back that service time that he wasn't giving you. You could have done that. So again, I'm with you with Cherington. I don't think Indy is going to start day one, and it really, really sucks. Like, this organization could really use a draft pick, and I think Indy, he's ready, man.
Well, it's not even that. Like, the organization could just use good players, and like you've got one here, and like more than anything, I think that's just where I'm at. Like, I want to see the organization's best players in Pittsburgh. I don't want to see them play 2.5 months in Indianapolis, getting bored out of their mind, playing a bunch of guys that they're better than. It doesn't do anybody any good. I mean, you saw it with Cruz this year. Like, Cruz clearly didn't have the best year at Indianapolis, right? Like, it took him a while to kind of get started and heated up. And even when he did, like, he was never like just crushing the ball, right? But then you call him up to the majors and takes him a while to get used to it. But then once he does, he is looking really good. The last 5 weeks of the season, there weren't too many players in Major League Baseball better than O'Neal Cruz. Like, he was one of the better players in the league. So, like, at the end of the day, like, get your best players to the major leagues as soon as possible so that they can start being good and of adjusting to the league. That's kind of just where I'm at. And if they're available, like if they're ready, right? So, and Andy Rodriguez has clearly shown that he's ready, at least from an offensive standpoint.
Yeah, you're correct. And just to go back, because we can't talk enough about O'Neal Cruz, of course, right? So just to go back since August 28th, right? The day that O'Neal started leading off, he ends the season from that point with a 149 weighted runs created plus. In that time frame, he's 25th in all of baseball in weighted runs created plus. So he's the 25th best hitter in baseball since August 28th. And right, it took him some time to adjust. And that could, of course, happen with Andy Rodriguez. So fine, that's what April is.
Yeah.
May you start hitting your stride. I mean, why do we keep comparing, and not comparing as far as skill set and tools and what he'll be, but just comparing O'Neal Cruz to Julio Rodriguez? Is because Julio Rodriguez took a while to adjust too. I mean, he was a bad baseball player for a little bit of time until he figured it out. And now he's Julio Rodriguez.
Yeah. No, same thing. I mean, so it just, if it's going to take a month for somebody to figure something out, let that month be April and not July.
Exactly. Because now you have May, June, July, August, September. Oh, you can win Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
Opposed to just having some of July, August, or not even having some of July at all, and it's August. Exactly. So I'm with you, man. I don't think it's going to happen for Endy, and it stinks, but I'm sure he'll be coming ready to compete in spring, and I hope he makes it very, very difficult. But I'm with you. It's probably Perez and like a delay, Heineman, something like that for a placeholder till Endy comes up, and then that's when, and the other guy, whether Heineman, delay, or it could be some other person, but I just doubt it. Because I mean, that person especially is just a guy waiting to be DFA'd until Indy comes.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. So yeah, back to Cherington's quotes again. We'll see what happens. Nothing that he said excited me at all. Nothing excited me that he said at all. Another thing he talked about is the coaching staff. Well, he's happy with them. Great relationship. That he's going to maintain all the coaching staff. There might be some additions. There'll be some changes, but he's keeping everybody unless, of course, some other organization hires them because everyone's pounding on the door for Andy Haynes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. To me, this was the biggest takeaway from this whole talk. Nothing else that he said really mattered to me. I really cared about. This was the biggest thing. He is perfectly okay with all the coaching staff.
Yeah. Offensively, this team was just so bad. So bad. Bullpen, so bad. I do like a few things I saw out of the starting rotation, right? So like I'm not to a point where like Oscar Marine is someone who has to go, you know. But between the bullpen and between the offense, I mean the offense's approach all year was just terrible. And you know, you saw it in the crazy amount of strikeouts, just complete lack of situational hitting, right? You know, and that's kind of a problem with Major League Baseball across the board, are the strikeouts and the situational hitting. But it just seemed bad for the Pirates this year, and a lot of it was just because they had bad players. But you just didn't see that much progression with a lot of guys either. It was, you know, Brian Reynolds didn't get better. Brian Hayes didn't get better. You know, O'Neal Cruz, I'm fine with how he ended his season, right? Castro, happy with how he ended his season. But like your key guys who have been there and have had, you know, major league instruction in the past didn't really get any better. If anything, there were some people who got worse. You know, Yoshi Susugo got worse. You know, you didn't really see anything get better out of Ben Gamble, who's been around a few years. So just not a lot of like reasons for optimism, you know, around the offensive coaching staff. But I mean, I guess at the end of the day, like I also have a hard time judging coaches when they don't have a whole lot to work with, you know, and that's kind of like with Shelton in particular too. I've kind of had this dilemma, this inner dilemma where like, okay, I don't think he's the guy, right? But is it really fair to fire someone right now when you have given him nothing, right? He's basically just been a good foot soldier this whole time, has done exactly what you've been telling him to do. You just haven't given him a good team. Like, it doesn't matter who was your manager these past 3 seasons. No one was making these teams a winner. Nobody. Like,
right.
The ghost of Danny Murtaugh isn't coming back and making any of these teams any good. So I kind of think that's just where I stand all around. Like maybe 2023, which this is another thing that frustrated me. 2022 could have been this year, right? Where it was like judgment time. You give them good players, right? You could have given them good players in 2022. You decided not to. So now 2023 is kind of that judgment year where, hey, let's actually give these guys some tools to work. We
hope.
Right. Let's hope. Let's actually give these guys some tools to work with. If they're able to figure it out with them, cool. If not, then they're gone going into 2024. But I mean, I got to think that, yeah, they're all back, but they've got to show you something next year.
Fair enough. I won't go too much detail. I mean, he pretty much hit in the head there. But it was just disappointing that he was happy with everybody, because I'm not happy with everybody. I certainly think things could be shaken up a bit. I think it's warranted that things should be shaken up a bit. The players need to compete. Maybe the coaches need to as well.
Yeah.
But anyways, they're all safe, and much of the same for 2023 apparently with the coaching staff. So I mean, it seems like those were the big points that were touched on. So again, to kind of wrap up, the players need to compete. Oh, my bad. There was another thing. They are looking to sign a veteran starting pitcher. Now, what they plan on doing, right? Ben Cherington stated he is open and willing to look into a longer than a 1-year deal if it makes sense. So again, like there's his out. Yeah. He's looking to. But they do, he does want to add a veteran starting pitcher. I think that was the thing too. Like he said, one.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned like you would like to have two, but it seems like one's going to be the play.
Yeah. And I think if you are going to get somebody, like you would prefer a lefty just because you have no other lefty starters, right? And I don't know, I've always felt like it's good to have a lefty in that rotation, at least one. Better to have as many as you can with kind of the way that PNC's. It's nice to have the lefties there for that short portion, right? Like to kind of keep left-handed hitters in check. But yeah. So I mean, looking at the list here, what's funny is like Tyler Anderson and Jose Quintana would be great fits. They may have priced themselves out though at this point. Like both of them are having excellent seasons. I don't know if the Pirates are going to be able to afford them.
Able to or willing to are two different things.
Right. Willing to afford them.
Now, what I'll say on that too is so like much to like the Josh Bell thing. I mean, it takes two to tango. Does Josh Bell also want to come back to PNC? That's the other part, right? The Pirates can say, "Hey, Josh, we love you," but Ben Cherington can say that, but Josh can say, "Well, screw you. I'm not coming back here." Tyler Anderson, I don't think there was a whole lot where him being tied at Pittsburgh and like a willingness to come back. But we know that was like with Quintana. I mean, I could see a Quintana deal happening. I'm not out here saying it's going to. I'm not saying like I could see it because my sources say it will happen. I'm just saying like I believe Jose Quintana would want to come back to Pittsburgh. If Pittsburgh wants him to come back and the money's at least somewhat right, like I could see a Quintana deal happening in that sense. But I'm with you. Dude will get paid some money this offseason because he was very productive all year long. It wasn't just as if like he had this hot streak with the Pirates and then he turned back into a pumpkin at the trade, or it wasn't as if like he was Quintana got traded and then had 2 months where he was good. It happened all year long. I mean, he was the best starter for the Cardinals as well, which was in a playoff run. So that speaks volumes. So certainly his pedigree, what he has, I think he's going to get paid too. Not as a top end guy, but I think the Pirates could sign him if they wanted to. But would they want the willingness to go out and spend that much money to sign him is another thing.
Yeah, I mean, they signed Quintana for $2 million this year. So I mean, they got him real cheap. So I don't know if they'll be looking to do something like, I mean, hopefully it's not something like that again, because odds are you're probably not finding another Jose Quintana for $2 million. Like that was luck right there. Martin Perez is a name that's kind of been floating around. He's a free agent, lefty. I don't know if they could afford somebody like that though either. Like that's going to be like a workhorse starting pitcher type guy. I don't know, but that would be a good 2-year, $20 million candidate, maybe something like that. I'm not exactly sure what his going rate's going to be.
Yeah.
He had a good season.
I'm with you. And like I think the other thing we're missing out on here as well is the fact that, I mean, trades could happen.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be just by free agency money. They have a lot of guys in the 40-man. They got a lot of Rule 5. They have a lot of assets somewhere or another. I mean, they could pull off some trade on some pitcher who has maybe like 1, 2, 3 years remaining, right? Maybe it's a Marquez from the Rockies, like a great example. That says like maybe that guy who's having a down year, you believe a new scenery, something, I don't know, maybe the Pirates are focusing and targeting something. They got the new wave of guys, right?
Right.
They find someone who could be like a reclamation in that sense, make a trade, and they get that guy for some cost controlling amount of money, some years, and it makes a lot of sense for the trade. So, I mean, there's different ways of spending money. It doesn't have to come strictly from free agency. So we'll see. But they definitely have a lot of bullets to trade away if they really wanted to.
They do. Or they could just sign Jacob deGrom.
So moving on. Yes, deGrom and Judge coming to the Pirates.
Yeah.
The theater near you.
But that would solve a lot of problems. deGrom and Judge.
Yes, it would. So like to wrap up like what was said. So again, like check the boxes. They want players to compete. They want to sign a veteran free agency, hoping for multiple years, but if not, it needs to make sense. They want to look to improve first base. We're not focusing on payroll. They do want to spend money on free agency, but again, that $20 or $30 million isn't really going to push the payroll, right? But also, payroll doesn't matter because that's not really what they're focused on. Because also, winning wasn't something they were focused on as well. It's about the players.
Yeah, they didn't really seem that interested in winning.
Right. And he said that, like they weren't, like it wasn't about winning. It was about the players. Now, mind you, I also understand that. Like, people are going to take that too far. The team was bad. They're not going to win. Wins don't really judge the 2022 season. It also didn't have to judge it if they tried to be better. It is about the player development for the most part. It's just they could have had better players and been better all around and whatever. Regardless, what I'm getting at is they could have spent more money. Like what this upcoming season is going to be, they could be a 70-win team. They could be a 72-win team, 73-win team. I'm still not going to say like that's not what's going to define if they're good. It's going to be the construction of the roster. It's going to be how much these players developed and got better by, regardless, whatever. The next thing is they want to maintain most of the coaches. So again, like hearing these comments, everything that was said, you could literally say about the 2022 offseason. Everyone should come in to compete. Check. Mm-hmm. They want to sign a veteran free agency. They would like more than 1 year, but if not, if it makes sense, just one. Well, Jose Quintana, check. They want to improve first base. That was Yoshi, check. We're not going to focus on payroll, check. They're going to spend money on free agents, check. Literally everything he said right here is what happened in 2022. So if you're excited by what Ben Cherington said, I don't know why.
There's absolutely no reason to be excited about what he said.
Not by the words.
Yeah, they're hoping for a lot of internal improvements, which, obviously we all are. Like we're hoping that everybody can get better, but that's not how sports works. Not everybody is going to get better. Some people who were good are going to get worse. Some people who are bad are going to get better. Some people are just going to stay exactly the same. That's just kind of how it's going to work. One thing I would love to see is some more maybe, and he talked about it too, and something that I agree with is just, more roster stability, right? Like, let's not break records on the amount of people used. Good teams don't do that. Good teams aren't using, what was the final number this year?
68, right?
68 players like used. That's absolutely absurd. I mean, you have a 40-man roster and you almost doubled it as far as guys that you can use in a major league season. So
yeah, 28 active at the most.
Like that's embarrassing using that many players. So have some more stability. Like have a core group of guys who are good enough to be on a major league roster for more than a week at a time.
Amen. I'm with you, man. So again, that's why I just want to like wrap this whole thing up. The words that were said doesn't move me one way or another because everything had an out. Everything was general statements that like literally the Yankees could literally say the same thing. We would like to sign a veteran free agent. Every player should come in to compete, right? We want to spend money for agent. Like everything that was said here is what every organization says in the offseason. So like once again, to me, it comes down to simple actions by Ben Cherington. Cool. You said all this. And again, all this is what was done in 2022. So what actions are you taking in 2023 to ensure more of this stuff comes to fruition? This team does move the needle a little bit more. 2023 is another wasted season where you have 100 losses once again. Let's see some actual trending in the correct direction, because Brian Reynolds is not going to be here forever.
Yeah.
Mainly because Brian Reynolds is not going to be here forever. But now, we didn't talk about this before, but now you're also entering discussion of Mitch Keller's not here forever because he's turning himself back as part of this organization. So when's Mitch Keller's free agency clock start ticking down too?
Yeah. I mean, you're looking Keller and Reynolds are in the same boat when it comes to service time. So 3 more years.
Yep. So do you want to win with them or not? Because there's 2 things you need to do with that. You need to win with them or trade them.
Yep.
Yeah.
That is where we're at.
So anyways, anything else that you wanted to touch on, I guess, with the Cherington comments or anything else Pirates related or non-Pirates related? I don't know. Garrett Cole and Clay Holmes shutting down the Guardians tonight.
Yeah. A lot of people hate Garrett Cole. I like Garrett Cole. And I think he kind of shows why the Yankees, tonight, like a game like tonight was why the Yankees are paying him what they are. They're on the ropes, elimination game, and he just goes out there, gives them 7 innings, 2 runs. Ho hum. I'm Garrett Cole. So brings the series back to New York. He's it's funny how many times you and I see it on Twitter a lot where people kind of realize it, but people trash Garrett Cole while he's pitching all the time. This guy's no good. This guy's no good. The next thing you know, he just pitched 7 innings, struck out 8, gave up a run. He does it every time out, and he's just a really good pitcher. There aren't a lot of guys who are like that nowadays that are going to go out there and throw a lot of innings, strike out a lot of batters, and give your team a chance to win every single night. And he's one of them. So good outing there. It's been a pretty fun playoff so far. A lot of upsets. So I'm looking forward to the championship series is continuing. But yeah, it's been a fun playoffs.
Our Padres, man.
Yeah, Padres. Let's go. Knocking out the Dodgers.
That series, they did it. The Padres beat the Dodgers. Holy hell. Yeah. But yeah, man, the Braves is I feel like I'm more shocked on the Braves being out than the Dodgers at this point in time. I cannot believe the Braves lost.
Yeah, it really just comes down to Philly's pitching. Just Nola, Wheeler, they've just kind of taken an extra step, and they've been really good this postseason.
Yeah.
That's the thing. If you can ride 2 really good pitchers,
especially a 5-game series.
Yeah, you can win some games.
Yeah. So again, Atlanta goes out, then the Dodgers go out. The Mets are already out. Crazy baseball though, right? But yeah, back to Garrett Cole. I don't know. It's weird because a lot of ex-players, Starling Marte is a good example. People hated Starling Marte to begin with. They probably still do, so whatever. But I feel like the people that liked Marte still like Marte. It's not as if always in New York and I hate him, whatever. But I feel like with Garrett Cole, because he was liked in Pittsburgh. Again, when he's sitting there and watching the Penguins game, right, chugging back a beer, it was everyone celebrated him. But now he's with the Yankees, and it's oh, that guy stinks or whatever. I'm with you, though. I like Garrett Cole. I feel like there's something there, and that's why. I don't know what it is exactly. I don't know if it's because he is a Yankee. I think a lot of it really has more to do with him being involved with the sticky stuff. Maybe. That part I can get. I can understand that. But I feel like there's certainly a fashion that it's not even that at all. It's just because he's no longer a Pirate.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's kind of how I feel like. He's no longer a Pirate. He's a Yankee now, and you got to find a way to trash him. But he's a great pitcher, definitely a great competitor, and like what you said, what he's doing, he's also doing it in New York. That alone says a lot. It's hard to succeed in New York City.
Yeah, it's one of those things where his 2015, we all knew Garrett Cole was special. He was #1 overall pick, right? And flew through the minors. But I mean, that 2015 season he had, it's the best pitching season a Pirate has had in my lifetime that I can remember. Like, because Draybeck years, you could argue, but I don't remember those. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna.
I mean, it doesn't help that the Pirates weren't really good for many
the
years.
Pirates. I agree, but like Garrett Cole's the best pitcher that I can remember seeing pitching in a Pirates uniform.
Right.
Plain and simple.
For sure.
So yeah, so I'm gonna always kind of like him.
I do.
Yeah.
But either way, I guess we will wrap this up then. So again, you're listening to this. It's Monday morning. We'll be back Wednesday night for the Fanboys at 9:00. So tune in and we'll have some fun.
Sounds good.
All right. We'll get out of here then. Bye-bye.
See you guys.